So I will hit. Don't you love that? That's kind of one of the pandemic back sounds. I think I'll remember that for years.
That, and are you on mute? Or you're on mute.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for being here today. My name's Jacqueline Gist. I'm one of the career coaches and assistant directors at University Career Services. And today we're going to be talking about careers in the nonprofit sector. I think there's such a wide variety of careers, and not everybody is aware of them, and many, many different skill sets needed. I'm by training a social worker, and I think sometimes people think only social workers work in nonprofits, and nothing could be further from the truth. There's a whole wide range of people. I am very excited to have with us today for interesting nonprofit professionals from a wide variety of backgrounds who are going to talk to you today about the work that they do. We have Elizabeth Trotman, and Elizabeth is with the she is with the Foundation for the Carolinas, and we have Andrew Hudgens, who is with the Johnson Service Corps, which is real close to campus. And we have alumnus Shaheen Towles, who is with the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation, and Sierra Plato, who is a former Peace Corps volunteer who is now a regional Peace Corps recruitment coordinator. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. Students, we are recording this, and we will have time at the end for questions. And because this is a webinar and not a regular Zoom meeting, I won't be able to see you. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat room, and I promise you that we will get to them at the end of our presentation. So just hold on to that. I'd like to start by asking each of our panelists, and this is always my favorite part because everybody's is different, to please take a couple minutes and tell us about your professional journey. Elizabeth, would you tell us about your professional journey?
Sure. It will be interesting as I listen to the other panelists, because I can say that my journey has not been straight. It has definitely been curved. I actually started out with a focus on fashion design in school and got into it and kind of decided it wasn't exactly for me, although I still bring it into different aspects of my journey. But I spent some time working for a nonprofit. I got a degree in public relations and started working for a small nonprofit focused on micro entrepreneurship, and just fell in love with the work of helping people and really thinking about how to produce economic mobility. And so from there, I kind of decided I needed to hone in on what I was doing, because I do this now. I was doing a lot of different things. I was doing operations and communications and program planning. So I decided to hone in on event planning and began working at United Way of Central Ohio. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, although I currently reside in Charlotte. But I started working at United Way of Central Ohio and really had some formative years. I will say during that time, I didn't even really know what I had when I had it, but I got to do a lot of different things, work with all of our departments, community impact, development and such, and spent time doing that, then evolved, took another role leading an initiative called Champion of Children, which again, I had the opportunity to really do some innovative things, focusing on different community issues and topics, everything from place-based work to the impact and the needs of boys of color. And then moved on to work at Nationwide Children's Hospital, doing some place-based work, and then found myself moving with my husband to Charlotte, North Carolina. And from there, I began working in nonprofit organizations, one focused on homelessness, then led an initiative focused on resiliency, then worked for, many of you may be familiar with Novant Health and their community engagement, and then landed at the Foundation for the Carolinas. And my role now is as the Senior Vice President of Civic Leadership Programs and Initiatives. So one of the things I will just share is and I want to make sure that I abide by the time, as a theme that, I noticed is really to be flexible and to really, be open to trying and doing new things. I didn't really know that I would be in the spot that I am when I started. Another thing is relationship building. That certainly has been a key element of my journey. And in the role I'm in now, frankly, when I moved to Charlotte, I would have loved to have started that role right away, but I wasn't ready. And I really needed to get to know the community and really build the right relationships. And now all those different things that I've done they all feed into this role. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it hasn't really been straight, it's been curved, but it's been a really enjoyable ride.
I am going to break with what I sent you all, because I'm going to ask one follow-up question to each of you after you tell us your professional journey. And that is, where did you get the skills that you need to do the job that you're doing now, Elizabeth? You didn't get them all in college. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I will say I do feel like public relations really set a foundation for me, because there's so many elements of just even critical thinking skills that come from that. But this is a key theme too. I always encourage students to do is volunteer, do as many internships as you can, and meet with people. And then also take on new projects. Be the first one to raise your hand and say, hey, I'll do that. Even if it's joining a team, you may not be the lead, but that allows you really to learn new things and do new things. So for me, getting the skills, there was a lot that I learned by doing, and by, again, it didn't always come through work. Sometimes it was volunteering at another nonprofit or at my church or with a women's group, leading certain efforts that, maybe others may not have found as interesting, but I wanted to learn and see, do I have a strength in a particular area? And sometimes I didn't know the strengths and weaknesses that I had until I did it.
Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. And I think it gets to the point of we all have to take responsibility for our own professional development in order for us to keep moving and having new adventures. Shaheen, could you please tell us about your professional journey?
Sure, thank you so much. So just like Elizabeth, the path that brought me to my current job has also not been linear. But similarly, I told myself I was going to stay open-minded and remain flexible as well. And so far, things have worked out. So I started off, I graduated from UNC Chapel Hill in 1999. It was during the dot-com boom. And I was an English public policy double major. And I was thinking I was going to pursue a career in law, but instead I was actually recruited to join a company called Ernst & Young as a management consultant. And so that was a great opportunity. I moved to Atlanta, spent a few years there. I decided a few years later that I wanted to leave the corporate sector and do more mission-driven work. And so I moved back to North Carolina and I joined the staff of an organization called the North Carolina Rural Internet Access Authority.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked there for about 3 years as a program associate. And then I actually applied to go back to graduate school and got into UNC in the journalism school, the journalism program. And it was an incredible 2 years. I learned so much. My concentration was actually electronic media, which I think has now changed names. But after journalism school, I was hired at what is now Spectrum News as a producer, fill-in reporter. And then a few months later, I decided I wanted to do more longer format storytelling. And so I had an opportunity to work as a producer, writer for a startup crime television show that was based out of Capital Broadcasting Company. And so it was wonderful. It was very intriguing. It was called NC Wanted, and it was sort of a hybrid of America's Most Wanted and 48 Hours Unsolved Mysteries. But then, unfortunately, when the economy took a turn in 2008, our show was canceled. And so I was sort of forced to move in a different direction. And that's when I moved in a completely different direction. I joined the staff of the North Carolina Rural Economic Development Center, overseeing their leadership development program. So, sort of went from journalism to leadership development. And then a few years later, I really did sort of miss public relations and communications work. And so I became the communications director for the first nonprofit that I worked for, the Rural Internet Access Authority, which had then changed its name to the ENC Authority. So I sort of went back to that first nonprofit and worked there doing communications. And then after that, I was, fortunate enough to start working in my current job, which is the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. I moved to Winston-Salem. Life sort of took me from the Triangle area to the Triad. And so I have been here in this position as the Director of Communications for about 10 years now. And, similar to what Elizabeth was saying, so much of what I did previously was the culmination of what I'm doing now. So it really did feed into this position that I'm doing now. And it's been a great opportunity. I'm learning every day and loving it. So
it sounds like you too have developed skills as you've gone along.
yes,
Has there been any one point where, whoops, I better learn this, and you went and learned it?
Well, the interesting thing was in my current role, I write a lot of press releases, and that is not something that I had any former training in. But, again, I very quickly sort of learned on the job, started asking folks that's just one example, but started asking folks, how do you write an effective press release? And, now I feel like I can do it with my eyes closed, but in the beginning it was sort of intimidating because I didn't really have formal public relations training. I did have, journalism training, which was in the television industry, television and radio industry. And writing for television and radio is a little bit different than writing for print. And so, but I feel like I was able to translate a lot of those skills to what I'm doing now. Again, having good mentors, talking to folks, doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of studying of journalism and the sector of public relations, and really, a lot of it's just been on the job training, and it's been absolutely wonderful and very challenging, but wonderful.
That sounds very, very exciting.
Yes.
Sierra, thank you for being here, my friend. It's good to see you again. Can you tell us about your journey?
Yes, thank you for having me. So my journey is one of, I would say, full of passion. And that's what I have done. And that's something that I still continue to do. And so I actually went to ECU, and that's where I graduated from. And I studied sociology with the concentration in Hispanic studies. That was what I was really passionate about, looking at all these intricacies in human interaction and behavior, and studying that, and really tapping into that rebel behavior that I have inside of me. And with the Spanish, really stepping outside of my own community, being from Raleigh and being, of the Black community, it was really great opportunity for me to really just excel. And that was skill building right there, is learning another language and interacting with people from different cultures. And there are so many different skills and competencies that are just intertwined with that in itself. And I think that through my studies and also getting my master's degree there in international studies, it really became this whole big mesh of of advocacy work and working with local nonprofits and working to really fight for the rights of individuals who directly may not even really pertain to the community that I come from, but just feeling this whole connectedness of us all, because my focus was in a globalized community. So I think that that is how I excelled. But I did find myself in a situation where all of this passion and drive, and now I've graduated, I've got all these credentials, where in the heck am I gonna work? And that was a place that was really tough to be in, because it was difficult to find a job straight out of getting my master's degree that can match my values, being such a value-centric person. And I was at a standstill, I would say, and I was working in things that I did not particularly enjoy. And it messes with your morale, but it's okay, because that was a very short time. That was only about a year or two of me being in that sort of situation. And then what really was the game changer for me was applying to the Peace Corps. It was one of those things where it got me back on track with working in exactly what I'm passionate about. And so I was an education volunteer in Costa Rica, where I worked with local teachers, and also were teaching the kids myself. And so it was really about sustainability, because in Peace Corps, we work in at the grassroots level with communities. And so it was really more so about me helping to increase the capacity of those around me. But then I was more than just the education volunteer. I was also a member of the community, because we focused on relationship building. So I spent quite a bit of time working with the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which is which is a national or international organization founded by Marcus Garvey. That was such a beautiful time of my service, interacting with people who are passionate about improving the situation in the Black community in Costa Rica, which is where I lived, was in the Afro-Caribbean part. So being there and seeing Blackness in all its different forms was also a part of my passion, and very inspiring to see these things and bring that right back here to North Carolina, where I am now the regional recruiter. Actually, I'm now the senior recruiter here in North Carolina. And it's just been a beautiful journey, really being the public face of the agency. And so we're not necessarily nonprofit, but we oftentimes function as nonprofit, because what we do at the very core is with the people on the ground, for lack of a better term, getting your hands dirty. So that's what I do, is I interact with people here in North Carolina, and really am passionate about making sure that people, especially from marginalized communities, understand what opportunities are available to them, and then the importance of interacting with people different. So I would say that overall, my passions are what have gotten me to where I'm at, and why, despite the challenges and not knowing what's next, I've been able to just kind of navigate through it all.
And the skills you've developed along the way, I know you're in an administrative role now, which is different than being a PCV on the ground. How did you develop those administrative skills?
I think it's one of those where you, with like everyone else said, you just kind of learn as you go. And I think that it can be very intimidating. People think that you have to know how to do everything before it happens. No, a lot of people don't know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You see this? I have a notepad, and I keep a list of questions. When it's time for me to have check-ins with my direct supervisor, I ask questions. So that is how I have built my skill set, is making sure to have a core support system. Someone mentioned mentorship. I know to ask these questions with these people, and then I know to ask these type of questions with those individuals. So that is what it really has come down to for me, is having a nice support system around me.
Thank you, Sierra.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, last but not least, can you tell us about your career journey and how you developed the skills you needed?
Yeah, Well, good afternoon, everyone. So growing up, I volunteered a lot in my community with nonprofits. And so that was a very comfortable setting for me. And I knew I wanted a career that was, I wanted to do something that was mission driven. And so in undergrad, I majored in social work. And then after that, felt like there was a piece of that for me was missing from that, which for me was a whole element of spirituality to it and faith. And so from undergrad in social work, I went to get my master's in theological studies and started working for inside the church, and worked in youth ministry and as a pastor for several years. And after doing that for a few years, just felt like there was still a piece of that was missing, that it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And so kind of similar to what you were just sharing, Sierra, about needing to hit a reset. That's kind of what I felt like. I'm not sure. I've got all of these different interests and experiences, and I'm not quite sure yet how to integrate them all or what to do, but I know where I'm at right now is not the right fit. And so I took a year of service with an organization that's very similar to the one I actually direct now, and was in Houston, Texas for a year, volunteering full-time at the largest emergency homeless shelter in the city. And so we'd have anywhere from 300 to 400 women and children in the shelter each night. And so my job was to help them in that emergency situation transition out of the shelter as smoothly as possible. And so did that for a year, while all the time having plenty of space to do my own reflection and just look internally a lot and figure out what the next step would be. Because for so long in my career, it had been just, what are you going to do next? Like, what's that next thing? And I hadn't had the time to figure out like who I wanted to be first and have that flow to what I was going to do. And so that gave me a great time to be able to do that, which led me to North Carolina, where I started working for a statewide organization based in Raleigh called the North Carolina Council of Churches, which allowed me to integrate that faith component that was important to me with the justice and mission-driven work. And the North Carolina Council of Churches is a network of 18 different denominations that follows policy within the state and works with progressive people of faith to affect positive change, particularly for the people who are most marginalized in the state. And so I did administrative work for that organization for several years, which gave me a wide range of experiences. The organization itself was involved in a lot of different areas of work. And so I got to learn a lot from my coworkers who were doing the work, and then also got to try a lot of different things out and test whether I had skills in a certain area and get exposed to new things. And so that was a really great experience for me, which led me to the job that I have now, which is working for the Johnson Service Corps. So we're an affiliate of the Episcopal Service Corps. We're based in Chapel Hill. Our office is located in Chapel of the Cross, which is pretty much right on the campus of UNC, right there on Franklin Street. And we have young adults that come and serve with us, people in their 20s, in Chapel Hill, Carborough, and Durham for a year. And we connect them with nonprofits throughout the Triangle, where they volunteer full-time doing a wide range of things, everything from fundraising and development to communications to direct service, and give them the space, just like it was important for me in my own professional journey, give them the space to figure out who they are and who they want to be and what they want to do. And then through the course of the year, they're all the while getting valuable experience in a professional setting and testing out their own skills and learning new things and making networking and connecting with not only the people at their organization, but we provide the housing for our core members. And so they're coming home and talking with other people in the program and the work they're doing at their organizations and getting involved there. And so as the director, I get to experience all of that right alongside of them, which has been great. And so, as we're doing our own vocational discernment work and leadership training and talking about a wide range of social justice issues, I get to do that work right alongside of them. So I'm constantly having the time and space myself to do that own discernment work, and they're challenging me, and we're challenging each other in different justice issues and all of that. So I've really enjoyed doing the work that I get to do now with the Johnson Service Corps.
Thank you. I'd love to do what any one of you are doing. It's fascinating. And how did you develop your skills as you went along the way, Andrew? You have quite a variety.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of watching other people do different things. I learned a lot from watching other people who were more skilled at facilitating conversation and just observing how they did things, and then gradually over time figuring out if that was my style, and then kind of creating my own style for different things. So I think just being able to be in positions where I was working alongside of people who are much more experienced and skilled in different areas. And then when having the opportunity to step into something, not being afraid to step into it and try it out for myself. And then reflecting on it, yeah, that didn't go well because that's just not my skill set, or I could have prepared in a different way, or that went really well because I did these certain things. So watching people and then taking the time to practice it myself, and when given the opportunity, taking advantage of it is probably the biggest thing.
And being willing to kind of try something that you're not positive you're going to succeed in. That's an important one too. I'd like to go back to our second question. Elizabeth, could you please tell us a little bit about your organization and any opportunities that might be available for young people graduating or people looking for internships?
Sure. I work for Foundation for the Carolinas, which is a community foundation. We serve a 13-county region, and we're focused on philanthropy and civic engagement. There are many positions always opening at the foundation. Right now, we're not hosting a lot of internships, but I would like to highlight a subsidiary that has just become a subsidiary called E4E Relief. And they work with corporations to provide emergency relief to employees around the world. And they have just been growing if you think about any disaster, anything that happens, they are working to ensure that families have the support that they need. And so if you have an interest in kind of getting into that space early on, I would say to check them out. And then, there are times, if I will say also, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always supportive of students, and I work and speak to a lot of other nonprofits where there are a lot of opportunities. So I'd be happy to talk with you and make recommendations based on what you may have an interest in.
Elizabeth, thank you for that. And I'd like to ask all four of you, if you're willing to have students contact you, could you please put your name and contact information in the chat room, and students can see it? Thank you. Thank you. Your organization's so big. When I was looking at your website, it looked like the foundation just has these fingers that reach out throughout both states, really.
I would say we're big in impact. We're more of a medium-sized organization, not a terribly large amount of employees, but our nearly $4 billion in philanthropic investment, and I'm sure that Shaheen can share some similar outcomes. So I think our impact is so huge, but we have a medium-sized team that works hard to make that happen.
Thank you. Shaheen, can you tell us a little bit more about Z. Smith Reynolds? And I know you have some fellowships and internships there that people might be interested in knowing about.
We do, yes. Thank you, Jackie. So the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation is a statewide private family foundation that's been around for more than 85 years. So the foundation provides funding to nonprofit organizations across the state of North Carolina. We primarily serve North Carolina. We have various grant cycles that organizations can apply for depending on what type of funding they're looking for. For organizations that are doing more state level work, we focus mainly on organizations that are working in the areas of public education, democracy, the environment, and social justice and equity. And we also provide grants to other organizations that are doing more local community-based work. And then we have some other grant opportunities around something we're calling exploratory visionary ideas. So fun, sort of bold ideas that organizations and individuals have. But in terms of career opportunities, most of the program officers, is what they're called, manage the programmatic work of the foundation. And so they manage all of the portfolios of these grants that we provide. And one opportunity that we do have at the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation is a 2-year fellowship program. And that's where a recent college student would serve as a junior program officer or an associate program officer, learning all about philanthropy, learning about community service, public policy, the nonprofit sector. And so we offer that opportunity. It's a 2-year paid fellowship. And so fellows rotate through the foundation every 2 years. So that's something that we do offer for folks who are interested in philanthropy and learning more. If you're not sure you want to commit 2 years to a fellowship, we also have a program called the Nonprofit Internship Program. And that places students with nonprofit organizations across the state. It's a paid summer internship, which is great. It's an 8-week opportunity. And we actually we're accepting applications for that internship program right now until February 21st. So if you're interested in learning more about the nonprofit sector, we encourage you to apply. Applications are on our website, and I'll put the website in the chat as well, along with my contact information, which is there. But again, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. We'd love to have you explore a career in the nonprofit sector, and this is a great way to try it out.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Those Z. Smith Reynolds fellows quite often happen to be UNC students. We're very proud of that, even though it's open to everybody that lives or went to school in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes,
I think
that's right. That's right, exactly.
Sierra, Peace Corps. I think they have some opportunities for people, don't they? Could you tell us about a little bit more about Peace Corps, and because not everybody knows about it, and the different opportunities?
Yeah, so just in short, I would say that Peace Corps, there's a place for anybody, just about everyone, and especially UNC students, because UNC has ranked on the top 10 list for the number of people who actually served in the Peace Corps or been invited to serve as well for a number of years. So historically, UNC has really been strong in representing Peace Corps overall. Someone in my whole cohort when I served was from UNC. So basically, whatever sector, environment, education, youth and development, business, agriculture, health, there's a place for everyone in it. The application process does take a few months. So I did put my contact information there. But I would also encourage you to reach out to the UNC recruiter. She is specifically working at UNC Chapel Hill because UNC is so well connected to the Peace Corps. And her name's Mira. I'll put her email right here in the chat box as well if you want to speak about the application process. But I'm always available to chat too about opportunities. This is a really great opportunity for you to build your skill set up and really understand what you want to contribute to the world, what you can do, push your potential, your challenges. And it's fully covered, fully funded by the federal government. So that's a really great opportunity to go somewhere and serve. So please just feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrew, just a little bit more about the Johnson Service Corps and all the different opportunities and kinds of places that people get involved with.
Yeah, so like I said, we're a one-year service year program based in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and Durham for young adults, and we provide housing, take care of utilities, groceries and food, give our core members a monthly stipend, health insurance if you need it, as well as a completion bonus at the end of the year to help with transition costs. And while you're in our program, you're placed with one of a number of different nonprofit organizations in the Triangle. Some of our current nonprofit partners are the Compass Center, just right down the street from UNC. We're partnered with Durham Children's Initiative, Center for Responsible Lending, Pauli Murray Center in Durham, and several others. And so as you can hear from that list, the range of the work that our core members are involved with their organizations is pretty broad. And then even within those organizations, the things that our core members do varies a lot. So if there is there might be an organization that fits your passions or your interests, or maybe a particular skill set that you want to go into. We have folks even right now in our program that know they don't want a career in nonprofits, but would like to get some experience within social media and communications. And so this is a great way to be able to do that. Would say that a lot of our core members at the end of the year tend to get offered jobs at the organizations that they've been volunteering with the year, or have job opportunities available to them from other organizations that they've collaborated with and networked with over the course of the year. And we have some people that, like I said, don't want a career in nonprofits, but want to have some experience or just need to figure out what the next step is going to be. And maybe that's nonprofits, and maybe that's something else entirely. And so this is a great way to be able to take some time without having to figure out all of these next steps, and just sit and think and have some time to actually do some of that processing and reflection work.
Thank you. That's excellent. Students, remember, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will get to them when we finish with this last round from our panelists, okay? But if you have questions, please put them in the chat. So the big one, what advice would you give to students? We'll start with Elizabeth. If you had a college first year or even a graduate student who was interested in nonprofits, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'm going to start with, I mentioned to the group before this started that I have a lot going on in the background. So it kind of connects to flexibility and adaptability. You know, I mentioned this at the top of the hour, just not being so tied to one path or one thing, but being willing, you know, I would say be willing to try new things, be flexible. Don't be that person that when they say, hey, can you do this? And you say, oh, I'm not the person, I don't know how to do that. But really put yourself in a position to be flexible and try new things.
Thank you. Don't be the one that says, not in my job description. Exactly. Andrew's telling us that they're accepting applications through their website, and I'm very familiar with the program. Come see me if you need help with that. Shaheen, what advice would you have looking back at your undergrad UNC self? What do you wish somebody had told her?
Well, I never quite could have imagined that my life would sort of take me to this place. I didn't even know what foundations were when I was thinking about a career. I mean, I had an idea, but I didn't really know what the role of philanthropy was in, in a state like North Carolina, and how much good they can do, and how much support they provide to nonprofit organizations. But I think, for me, again, the path that I took here to get to this place has sort of been, a little all over the place. But I always knew that I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, that aligned with my values. And so, I mentioned early on, I started out in a career in the corporate sector, and quickly realized that that really wasn't for me. I wanted to do something that was rewarding, that was mission driven, that we've talked about. And so, it was really a matter of, in some ways, a lot of it was, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in journalism, and I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to tell stories of people doing good work. I wanted to be a part of an organization that was doing this incredible work, and be able to tell folks about it. So I would say, find something that you're really passionate about. And then, if you're worried about making a living out of, the work that you're interested in doing, it'll happen. You can always make a living, doing something that you feel good about, and that you feel good about waking up in the morning and doing every single day. And really, I think that's where I have found so much joy and reward in working in the philanthropic sector with nonprofit organizations across the state. Working with people who are doing what they love every single day, and fortunately getting to do what I love every single day, which is tell those great stories of organizations that are doing incredible work. So I would say explore as much as you can, try new things. Like Elizabeth said, be flexible, be adaptable, and find something that you're really passionate about.
Thank you. That is wonderful. Elizabeth has asked me that she has some questions for students that you can put the answers in the chat. She wants to know, what are your interests and what do you want to learn more about? So if you want to put that in the chat for Elizabeth and the rest of us, we'd be happy to see it. Andrew, advice for what do you wish you had known?
I think when I started out my career and started working with nonprofits, my conception of what it meant to do nonprofit work was centered solely around doing some kind of direct service work. I had very little idea of the wide range of different things that nonprofits cover. I had no idea of the work that foundations do, or that nonprofits don't just deal with individuals on a one-on-one or a group setting, but there's nonprofits that work with policy and macro level issues. And I didn't have an idea for all of the various needs that nonprofits have for staffing that aren't doing that work directly. I've mentioned social media and communications as being a big one, or our organization has works with people who help us create videos and photography, and there's just a wide range of needs that nonprofits have that will meet your interests in some way, shape, or form. And so I think I guess a thing to keep in mind is getting a wide range of experiences, like we've talked about, and finding what are those things that you're passionate about and enjoy doing. And it's almost certain that there's a way to connect that with a mission-driven nonprofit organization in some capacity. And so taking time to get a broad range of experiences, whether that's volunteering with different organizations or whether it is getting a job, an entry-level job that helps you expose you to a lot of different opportunities. But I don't think there's a substitute for having experiences, being able to try new things, and then from there focusing in on something. So I don't think you need to have it figured out now. I don't think your career needs to start and end exactly. You don't need to have it all planned right now, how it's going to start and end. I think you can just take it one step at a time, find that first job, take advantage of any opportunities that you can, and then figure out the next step from there.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to do a little screen sharing here. If you have questions, please put them in the chat room. We have resources at UCS to help you. One is Handshake, where you can make an appointment with me, or you can also make an appointment with another career coach, as well as with Mira, who is our Peace Corps recruiter. If you're looking into nonprofit jobs, there's a really great website called idealist.org. And it's kind of the nonprofit, there's all kinds of volunteer opportunities, internships, fellowships. We have a handout that you can find on our website about a bunch of stuff that you can do for a year or two. And speaking of developing experiences, UCS is right now recruiting for career peers. And career peers are students who work with other students to help them with their job and internship application materials. For people that are interested in careers working with people, it's a great way to get started. You can go here and click on this code, or you can come to Career Services and learn more about it, but we're actively recruiting. We want your feedback. So if you would please take a minute and click here and tell us what you liked about today's program, what you'd like to see more of, and what you need. I'm going to leave this up while we wrap up here. Were there any student questions? Let me go back. This is your time to ask. Well, I think you have the contact information both for our guest and for me. So if you have questions later on, please feel free to contact me. I can put you in touch with our guest, but their contact information is also in there. So I'd like to ask you again to please take a minute and give us your feedback. And I'd like to thank our panelists for being here today. I know you're all really busy people and you have a lot going on. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences with your students and with me. I know I learned a lot. You all belong to organizations that I have a great deal of respect for and have learned about over the years. I'm a social worker by trade, and I started out in community org before I came into career counseling. So kind of one of the group. So thank you all so much for giving us your time today. And I hope things go well. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for making time and what I'm sure is a busy time. Is there one question up here? Thank you all. Thank you all. I'm also going to put the contact information in the chat room, but thank you. Thank you all. Goodbye. Can you hear me? I'm trying to do some. What organization would you, well, I would say, I just got answered if people, what organizations you would like to get involved in. I think it'd be great to get involved in any number of our on-campus student organizations. So I think that would be really good. Any other questions from students? No? Well, thank you so much for being here. And we will look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Goodbye.